Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July 22nd Lebanon City Council meeting. Our first order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
All right, we'll move on to the roll call members. Madam Clerk, call roll, please.
Mike Kincaid.
Present.
Keith Campbell.
Here.
Sandra Jasonowski. Here. Dick Robertson is absent this evening. John Copeland.
Here.
Sierra Messenger.
Present.
Robert Hawkins.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, and I believe we have minutes for our next meeting, correct? Next time, we'll have it next time. All right, so old business, nothing on my agenda, anything from council? Okay, new business then. First item up is resolution 2024-14. Council consider a fiscal plan for the annexation of 1350 Middle J-Town Road. Ben.
Evening, council members. Let me get plugged in here. First time using this laptop here, so hopefully it works when I plug it in. Here we go. All right. So if you recall, a couple meetings ago, we introduced the ordinance for the annexation that's on second reading tonight. As part of that annexation process, we're also required to complete a fiscal plan associated with that annexation. Essentially evaluates the additional expenses that we would anticipate as a result of annexing the property, and also projects out additional revenue and sort of the impact on assessed value and the tax rate as a result of the annexation as well. So the applicant in this case, New Cold, completed an application for us and projected out based on their conceptual plans for the property, when they might see investment occurring, and filled that out and provided that to us and our financial advisor. And I always jump to the back to the charts and the fiscal plan, and the first here, make sure I got the right page. This looks at the estimated assessed value and the tax rate impact. So what you see here is when you annex property with minimal assessed value, really there's very little change. And actually, because it's ag property, it's municipally tax exempt. So unless or until there's some sort of improvements on the property, they'll be exempt from the municipal tax. So that's what MTE stands for here. This is post annexation, the first year that they would pay city taxes, but they're exempt at that time. And so you can see the net assessed value of the city is increasing based on a 5% growth rate, which was just a general projection, total assessed values. And then the property tax levies of the city, you can see, is increasing as a result of the net assessed value increase of the city. And you can kind of see the municipal tax rate, 0.77, 0.76, 0.76. Where you see it starts changing is when you get to 2026, 27, and 27, 28, when some of the construction starts taking place on the site. And that improvement that's made on the site gets assessed, and then when it is actually taxable, which is a year after it's assessed. So you can start seeing here where that additional assessment starts plugging into the assessed values of the city and the property tax levies. Now, the reason you're not seeing big jumps in the property tax levies as a result of this assessment is because the property tax levy is determined by the DLGF based on a growth rate, not necessarily by the assessed value of the city. So what happens when you see a jump in assessed value, your tax rate goes down as opposed to the tax levy going up. So that's what you see occurring here in 27, 28, and 28, 29. As a result of more assessed value coming into the city, the result is not an increase in the tax levy, but a decrease in the property tax rate. So it's really a math problem that's done with the DLGF. So you start seeing it going from 0.76 to 0.75 to 0.72. So that kind of gives you an idea of annexing this property, what the impact it'll have on kind of the math problem that is the tax levy and the tax rates for the city. And so then the other side of the coin then is the additional costs that are assumed to be anticipated as part of the property being annexed to the city. And again, as I mentioned, this is an ag property. There are no people that live there now. So the services that need to be provided to an area like that are minimal. And what we anticipate primarily is the additional lane miles of road that are annexed as part of this annexation, and the cost to maintaining that from a street department, and then also the cost of patrolling it from a police department perspective. So Again, this is a math problem that our financial advisor does when you're adding a certain number of lane miles of road. What is the incremental cost associated with those things for the street performance and material supplies and repairs? And you can kind of see the estimates on an annual basis for the additional miles of road that are added. Excuse me. And the same for fuels and repairs for the police department. So you can see starting in 2025, we're assuming that the annexation will be effective by the end of this year. You can see the cost range from $3,800 up to $4,100 over the course of the 4 years. And then, of course, on the summary of the net impact on this last chart, as you can see, there is not an anticipated levy increase as a result of this, because again, the levy increases are determined by DLGF. Yes, sir.
Use your mic, those watching at home, Mike.
Those watching at home, tell them what DJLEF is.
It's the Department of Local Government and Finance. It's a state agency that basically deals with everything taxes locally. So they basically, our overall amount of tax collected is actually determined ahead of time by the DLGF based on some sort of percentage growth rate each year. So it's kind of a math, but you got your two inputs, but the output is already determined ahead of time. So the assessed value may go up more significantly, but the outcome's already determined. So that actually results in your tax rate going down, because that's the other part of the equation to that. So that's why you don't see any sort of tax levy increase or taxes collected increase as a result of this annexation with future inputs, is that the math problem is such that the tax rate goes down rather than the levy going up as a result of that. Now, those can always be appealed if your assessed value increases significantly. You can always appeal those, but this always just assumes that the status quo remains the same, or not appealing. And so that what happens is that the tax rate actually goes down rather than seeing a levy increase. So what does increase, though, is the CCD, is that Cume Cap Development Fund, is based on having additional lane miles of road in the city. And so that's what you see as some revenue start kicking in by 2027. That's an additional tax we collect based on having additional road miles to maintain in the city. So we do have some revenue starting in 2027 to accommodate those additional lane miles of road. So that's the summary of the net impact. This last chart, you can see revenues as the CCD levy increases, costs is this last chart. So you can see we're having some costs, $3,800, $3,900 going out in the first couple of years. But by year 3 and year four, the increase in the CCD levy will more than offset the costs that we anticipate for maintaining those lane miles of road. So that is a quick summary of the fiscal impact of this annexation. Happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions on that for Ben from the council? Sierra?
I have a quick question. As far as the utilities, I know that that's outside of the current utilities boundaries, but I know it's kind of like an extension from New Cold, like New Cold's here and then it's behind. So do we know what kind of structure we're going to be doing to make sure we can extend the water out to them? Like, has that all been planned and it's feasible and doable?
We haven't even started talking project specifics with them until it's annexed. We're really kind of in this gray area where we don't really have jurisdiction out there to discuss projects with them. At the appropriate time, we'll look at how we would extend utilities out to that site, what would be necessary in order to do that. And certainly at this point, we would expect that the cost would be borne by the investor, company making the investment to be able to extend those utilities out there. Same from the roads perspective. Certainly there's going to be some transportation improvements necessary in order to accommodate a site like this. So those will all be part of the discussion when we actually get into the discussion about actual improvements to the site.
The discussion been made with the proposed person about our water situation, so they are aware?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure that for sure has been discussed.
Yes, we've talked about the potential timing of that based on the timing of their project. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions for Ben on the resolution? Okay, Rob, I'll have you read it.
Thank you, Mayor. Council Resolution 2024-14 is a resolution of this council establishing a fiscal plan for the annexation of certain territory to the city of Lebanon. Whereas the areas to be annexed are legally described in Exhibits A and B. Pursuant to Indiana Code, this council is required to adopt a written fiscal plan prior to the passage of Annexation Ordinance 2024-10. The required fiscal plan, which Baker Tilly prepared, is attached as Exhibit C and has been prepared and presented to this council for consideration. The fiscal plan has been reviewed and complies with the requirements of Indiana Code. Therefore, be it resolved, this council hereby approves the fiscal plan and the approved for the areas sought to be annexed.
Thank you, Rob. Resolution's been read. Any further discussion, comments from council?
Motion we approve.
Wait, hold on. Any public comment concerning resolution 2024-14? Good, Mike.
2024-14.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second from Keith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That resolution is adopted. All right, next will be ordinance 2024-10. Council to consider annexation of 1350 Middle Jamestown Road. This is on second reading. Ben?
All right. You're just decided to go to sleep, so we'll wake that back up. All right, so this item is the second read of the annexation ordinance associated with the property on Middle Jamestown Road. And just for a refresher, here is the property in question. Existing Lebanon Business Park is just to the north. The existing New Cold facility, while my aerial photography is old, it sits in this area right here. And New Cold is requesting annexation of this M&I Riley property in order to be able to provide some additional development property for additional space for New Cold. This is a 100% voluntary annexation, meaning that the property owners within the annexed area have requested the annexation, so it is all voluntary. And with that, then the process is that we start first at the Plan Commission, where the Plan Commission considers a potential zoning district to assign to the property as part of the annexation. And as part of that, the applicant has provided a concept plan that would support a zoning classification of light industrial on the site, essentially extending the same zoning classifications in the business park to the north down to this site. Now, I just want to remind everybody, this is a concept plan only. This hasn't been reviewed for compliance with the standards of our ordinance and likely does not meet them. It has not been received any sorts of approvals for construction. This is concept only. In fact, it likely will change between now and the time that there is any potential project that moves forward. So just want to make sure that to reemphasize that this annexation does not approve a project. There is still a significant and lengthy review process that will take place for any project that would go on this site. Even if it was zone light industrial. And there's a lot of things we'd have to review as part of that. Extensions of the utilities, what we already talked about earlier, the transportation network and what might not be necessary in terms of improvements to the transportation network to accommodate this site, drainage, all those things are all part of that. And also the actual site design, what the building looks like, what the landscaping looks like, what the buffers look like. That will all be part of that discussion once it's annexed and at the appropriate time that they bring in plans for this. So this is a concept only meant to just support the idea of there being a light industrial use on this site at some point in the future. So that's what this shows here is a potential for an additional New Cold refrigerated warehouse facility on this site, as indicated in this concept. And that was reviewed by the Plan Commission. They provided a unanimous recommendation to support the light industrial zoning classification of the site and forward that to the council with a positive recommendation. Next steps then are the first reading of the annexation ordinance, which took place a month ago. And the public hearing also took place at that time. So we are now to the point where we're on the second reading of the annexation ordinance that is before you this evening. So I've kind of gone over a quick review of the site and the process and the recommendation from the Plan Commission. So with that, maybe I'll just stop and just see if there's any questions about the annexation itself from the council.
And just to clarify, Ben, you have the concept plan, but if we adopt the annexation tonight, that does not approve this project. It just begins the discussion.
Yeah, it just puts us in a position where we have jurisdiction to begin the discussion with them. At this point, I have no jurisdiction on this property to even discuss what the standards would be. So once the annexation is complete, then they would bring in plans. This is merely concept only. They have no approvals even with this annexation, to do anything on this property.
And the determination of the light industrial, that was made by the planning commission based on the proposed use of it.
Yes.
Further questions for Ben?
No, sir.
Okay. Rob, I'll have you read it, please.
Thank you, Mayor Council. Ordinance 2024-10 is an ordinance of this council annexing certain territory to the city of Lebanon. Whereas 100% of the owners of the parcels proposed for annexation, identified in Exhibits A and B, have filed a voluntary petition with this council pursuant to Indiana Code. The City of Lebanon Advisory Plan Commission held a public hearing at its regularly scheduled meeting on June 17th, 2024, and forwarded docket 24-19 to this council with a favorable recommendation 6-0 to assign the light industrial zoning classification for the annexation area. This council conducted a public hearing on June 24th, 2024, as required by Indiana law. This council adopted a fiscal plan for the annexation of the annexation area in accordance with Indiana law. The annexation area meets the contiguity requirements of Indiana Code. Therefore, be it resolved, this council finds as follows. The annexation area, generally located on the north side of West 200 South and both the west and the east sides of Middle Jamestown Road, and adjacent to the existing corporate limits along the northern boundary of the annexation area, is hereby declared annexed and declared to be a part of the city of Lebanon. The annexation area is further to include contiguous public highways and rights-of-ways as defined in Indiana Code. The annexation area is assigned Council District 2, and it shall be assigned, again, the light industrial zoning classification and shall be in full force and effect in accordance with Indiana law.
Thank you, Rob. Ordinance been read on second reading. Any further questions, comments from council?
No, sir.
Is there any public comment concerning ordinance 2024-10? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion then concerning ordinance 2024-10.
I make a motion that we pass ordinance 2024-10.
We have a motion to approve ordinance 2024-10. Is there a second? Second from Sierra. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That ordinance is approved. All right, next will be resolution 2024-16, which is a district appropriation request from the Lebanon Fire Department. Chief Batts.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. This additional appropriation request represents the first of a 5-year lease payment for our new SCBA system. This was originally a part of our 2025 budget, but all the materials, all the equipment came in early. So we started the process this year. We spoke earlier in the year about the needs of getting this going. And so tonight's the official additional appropriation request.
Questions for Chief on that, or I'll have Tanya read it and then we can have questions? Okay, Tanya, or you want to have Rob read it, or you want to read it? Rob, you want to read it, please?
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. Council. Resolution 2024-16 is a resolution of this council for an additional appropriation. Whereas at times it becomes necessary to appropriate additional funds within the approved budget as contemplated and authorized under Indiana Code. It has been determined that it is now necessary to appropriate more money than was originally appropriated in the annual budget. All additional appropriations require a public hearing. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this resolution 2024-16 is to appropriate funds for the lit fire capital outlays. The following additional sums of money are appropriated out of Fund 2240-Lit Fire in the amount of $107,002.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Any questions from council at this time?
This is for a new fire truck.
No, this is
SCBA.
for our new self-contained breathing apparatus system.
It's part of the county-wide effort. Everybody's getting on the same system.
Yes, this was a joint effort between Lebanon, Whitestown, and Zionsville to come together for a mass purchasing power for a new SCBA system. We last updated our SCBA system in 2003.
This,
Are those coming in?
They're in. That's,
Actually already in.
yes,
Okay.
they're in the bay. They've been inventoried, and we're just waiting for this process to be completed, and
So
then
we can
we'll
write
go
the
through the
check.
training process and put them in service.
Luckily, they've been nice and are willing to they're letting us have them before we pay for them officially at the moment.
Yes,
So-
it was a surprise delivery. We were expecting them more in November.
Any other questions for Chief? Okay, at this time then I'll open the public hearing on resolution 2024-16. If you need public comment, please come forward. State your name for the record and keep comments to 3 minutes if possible. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing on resolution 2024-16. Any further discussion, comments from council? No, sir. Okay, we'll entertain a motion concerning resolution 2024-16. Motion approved. Is there a second? Second from Sandra. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Thank you, council. Thank you,
I just
Chief.
want to thank the mayor and council members for being flexible and understanding with this issue. As I stated before, we were expecting this delivery in November, paying for it in 2025. So this was totally unexpected. And we definitely appreciate your flexibility with this and understanding that these things do happen from time to time.
Thank you, Chief. All right, that concludes what I have for new business. Is there anything from council? No, sir. Okay, move on to, actually, is there any general public comment at this time? Chad?
Chad, excuse me, Chad Kiker, 2235 Grant Boulevard. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Appreciate you allowing us to make some comments here at the end of the meeting. I know it's part of your agenda. I'm here tonight to represent some concerns from my neighbors in Chadwick Village, specifically along Grant Boulevard. And this is in regards to the new development at Angeli Gardens that's going in on the northeast side of town. To be clear, there's no opposition or ill will towards development. I think we're all understand the need for more housing in Lebanon. The specific issue and what is the root of our concern has to do with where the entrance location to this neighborhood is being placed. I don't know if this overhead works,
Yeah,
but
it does. If you you can put it on there. It should be able to do it from the back. There we go.
okay. So this is a partial plat map for the westernmost part of the subdivision that's going in. This is the section that borders Elm Swamp and Anderson Lane, which Anderson then turns into Angeli Way. And you'll see here at the intersection of Anderson and Elm Swamp, where it becomes Angeli Way, the next north-south neighborhood street is Grant Boulevard. And this is where the entrance is going in. And so realizing that we're very late to the party, knowing that you approved this back in 2021, and this project had some starts and stops and extensions, and I don't think many really knew if it was going forward or not for a long time. So now that it's been rebooted and construction plans have been signed off by your staff last week, we felt now was a good time to come before you and just express some concerns. Not really confident that anything's going to change after everything's been put in motion, but that maybe you could help us come up with some ideas or solutions if the anticipated traffic out of Angeli Gardens does not follow the path that we hope it does, which is down Elm Swamp and Anderson Lane. What's different about 2021 versus today is we have a new elementary school that's being built along John Bart Road. And if you map this, the path of least resistance to and from that elementary school is down Grant Boulevard into Angeli Gardens. And so just trying to have some just some forethought and thinking ahead that if this does become a problem with traffic, we're looking at, like 5 to 5x the number of cars down Grant Boulevard. It's a quiet neighborhood street, 20 miles an hour, not a city thoroughfare by any means. 3 main points that we're concerned about: safety for one. There was a young man hit by a car 30 plus years ago at the intersection of Sherry and Grant Boulevard that unfortunately is now a quadriplegic tragic accident. Along we realize that there are bad actors and people that don't stop at stop signs and that speed through neighborhoods. And there's only so much you can do about those bad actors. But along with more cars comes more bad actors. So I'm just starting to get your wheels turning on things that we might be able to do to dissuade people from using Grant Boulevard as a shortcut or a drag strip. The second concern is around traffic in general. As I'd mentioned, there's going to be an exponential amount of more cars come up and down Grant Boulevard. How is that going to affect the neighbors' ability to get in and out of their driveway, to get out for work? We have kids that ride their bikes along the streets. We don't have multi-use paths, so our street gets used for golf carts and bikes and skateboards and scooters and things that kids do. And so there's quite a few kids that live in the neighborhood, and we're really concerned about their safety. And then the final piece is more about the nature and the character of the neighborhood that has been there for 50 plus years. It's an established neighborhood. Several generations of families have lived in Chadwick Village. And I think one of the draws to living in Chadwick Village is not only the neighbors and the people that live there, but the quiet nature of the neighborhood. And how is this increased traffic going to potentially threaten why maybe people decided to move there in the first place? That's all I really had tonight. Again, realizing we're late to the party, we really want to be able to weigh in on things that impact the residents on anything moving forward, and would really love to do that at the beginning of the process. Again, this thing started and stopped and started and stopped. So that's pretty much it. I have some neighbors here with me. I don't know if any of them want us to speak, but basically sums up those three concerns, all of their comments that I collected under safety, traffic, and then the character of the neighborhood.
Hey, Chad.
Thank you.
For the public comment? We have probably dozens of people watching at home, so.
Well, I'm Chrisanne McCoskey. I live on 1019 Barry Drive, and I totally agree what he just said. I have lived there for 10 years, and I've seen a turnover of the, members, community moving back and forth. We have seen an increase in children in the neighborhood, and they do ride a boat. They are up and down Grant Boulevard, around Barry Drive. And I absolutely think there's a concern with the new entrance being on Grant Boulevard.
Thank you. Thanks. Any further comment?
If anybody has any questions for me, happy to answer
Any questions,
anything.
comments from council?
I have a comment. I live at 915 North Grant Street, almost to the corner of North Grant and Tiger Way. I've been there 23 years, and I've seen a lot of traffic. I mean, going to the high school, going to the middle school, and people, I have a lot of trust in the people who are driving down that street. I mean, school buses, we've got hundreds and hundreds of cars twice a day going down there, and everybody kind of moves along. It's like a dance, people moving and turning, and everybody's just real, I've never seen a wreck. So not that there will ever, it could happen anytime. So, I mean, you may have a few more cars, and I understand that you're used to a certain level of traffic. It might go up a little bit, but it won't be anything like you would see on North Grant Street. I would say that people are respectful for the most part, and driving through those neighborhoods. And so, I
hope you're right. Really,
Yeah,
I think we all win if you are. So I definitely want to hope for the best, and may also plan for the worst. So if that doesn't come true, what options do we have available to us?
So Chad, you mentioned the accident that happened about 30 years ago. That was before I lived in town. So there are changes made to the design of what happened?
It was before I moved to town too, Matt. And my understanding just from talking to people that have lived in the neighborhood for a long time is that there didn't used to be stop signs at all. And when the neighborhood was first established in the 70s, that it was a drag strip before the neighborhood filled up. And I think after that tragic accident, I think that's when the stop signs went in. And I think maybe speed limits posted. Yeah.
I'll make a comment about the 70s because I was driving in the 70s, and Lebanon at that time had 2 police cars, and every police car had 2 policemen in it. So now we have 50 policemen. So it's a little bit different
41.
41, okay.
40, I think 41.
Well,
Little
anyway.
bit of growth.
There's a big difference in the ability to control traffic. So,
Yeah. Well, we're all for the growth. We've seen the appreciation in our real estate in Chadwick Village, and it's, the more amenities in town. So I think you have a lot of support on the north side of town for what you all are doing, and we just wanted to kind of open up a conversation.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
I definitely feel like you should probably be keeping track, because if it does become an issue for people and you feel like it's becoming unsafe, I mean, there are things that we could try to do from one single council member's perspective. I don't know how people feel about speed bumps, or I'm sure that the engineers and stuff, they have different avenues we could explore to help slow traffic down if there is an issue. And I definitely think that you have a right to be worried. So I'm glad that you did speak up, but I do think that if it is an issue, there probably are things that they have in their back pockets we can try to do to slow the traffic down and keep traffic off it.
And I will say Kevin and Ben have been great about getting information to us and proposing those suggestions as well. So great ideas.
Is there room for more stop signs there?
I'm sorry?
Is there room for more stop signs there? I know they're a hassle, but they also deter people from using them that normally wouldn't.
I think other than the new intersection where the new neighborhood is going in, I think every intersection has a stop sign.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
think
almost certain.
Monroe doesn't, but
Okay.
other than that, yeah.
Yeah. It's a passive control measure, right? I mean, it only works if people follow the rules.
Well, and sometimes too, I'll just say this, you talk about reducing speeds, right? Sometimes just careful what you wish for, because that turns into bump outs that we have downtown, or roundabouts, or all those types of things too, that those are physical means to slow traffic.
Right.
So,
yeah, speed, I think they call them speed humps, which are like 4 or 5 feet wide.
the snowplow drivers don't love those, but yeah, that's the issue with those.
I know, it works in Minnesota. I used to work in Minnesota. I think the plows float over them.
That may be true.
Yeah.
Reading the signs that have the speed limit on it and you're going too fast, things like that.
We have a
too.
few of those in town.
Yeah. But thanks again. Appreciate you allowing us to speak.
Straightforward. All right, any other public comment? Okay, with that, I'll move on to claims. Would entertain a motion concerning the claims.
I'll make a motion, we pay the claims.
Motion to pay the claims, is there a second? Second from Keith, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, claims are approved. And any further announcements or discussion from council? Okay, would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn, is there a second? Second from Sandra, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, our next city council meeting will be Monday, August 12th at 7:15 PM. We are adjourned.